Hello, my name is Winston McLovin, and I'm here with Winston McLovin. I am also here with Peta Thompson. We are currently at the Kootenay Yoga Festival in Valican. And Peta, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
welcome.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. Sorry we had a bit of a late start there, but I think we're good to go now. So what can you tell me about your offerings this year at the Kootenay Yoga Festival?
So I'm offering a workshop. It's a 90-minute workshop called Unpacking Emotional Triggers. It's a condensed version of a 3-hour workshop that I've been offering in the Kootenays and BC this year. I think I've done it about 15 times now. It is based upon my teachings with compassionate inquiry, which is Gabor Mate's modality, as well as some somatic therapy techniques and a little bit of yoga philosophy kind of weaved together. So unpacking the things that trigger us, essentially, in our day-to-day lives, and having a look at what causes that and how to work with it using the nervous system as a guide.
What got you interested in this particular field?
In this particular field, so I spent a decade working as a skydiving instructor, and I lived in a state of hyper-arousal for about 10 years, which led to some addiction. So when I came through that, I discovered yoga, I discovered Gabor Mate and his teachings, and I basically put myself back together again. So that put me on this path, and now I'm super passionate about helping other people in the community reconnect to their authentic self, which is really the driver behind this work, is reconnecting to authentic self.
Yeah, amazing.
Also the theme of the Kootenay Yoga Festival this year, which is
raw authenticity.
That's right.
Yeah, I wasn't briefed about that. I was told that I was going to have to be raw, authentic. But the triggers, like, they're everywhere.
Every day.
Everywhere. All over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like learning how to deal with those. Yeah, it's a really tricky business for sure if you have no guidance, because we don't really have a lot of guidance. I didn't get any guidance on that stuff when in school.
Right.
I don't like triggers is, it seems like there's a lot of new psychological terms that we can actually use to describe what we're going through, where it seems like when I was young and growing up in high school, we didn't have a lot of those descriptors to describe what we were going through. So we just didn't know. We just thought we were stupid or lazy, or, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I still get triggered all the time. But the difference is now I can take a step back and have a look at what is actually going on in my nervous system, and I can navigate it a little better, or I can at least have a look after the fact at what was happening and then use that as guidance next time I'm triggered.
Well, I'm curious about that. What can you tell me about, like, how our triggers are related to the nervous system? Because it seems the nervous system keeps coming up for me a lot. I have a lot of friends who are in healing, and they talk a lot about, retraining our nervous system. So can you talk about the connection between those two?
For sure. So basically the way my workshop works is we always go in through the physiological response. So what I mean by that is when we're triggered, how do we know? Well, because my heart is racing and my jaw is clenched and my hands are tight and I'm not breathing properly. So that is our nervous system's response to an emotion. And then what happens is our brain, because we're humans and we have a prefrontal cortex, is we just need to create a story to go with what's going on in our body. So sometimes when we've lived in a state of hyperarousal for a really long time, or we have core beliefs that have been driving our actions for our whole entire life, we live in a constant state of hyperarousal. So it's teaching the nervous system how to be comfortable with safety, and how to come back to safety and familiarize ourselves with that.
So I guess, like, what do you hope that people will take away from your workshop today when they leave?
Some feedback that I constantly get from attendees of my workshops, especially when it's couples, is sort of a sense of conflict resolution. So, when you leave here and you go back into your lives, you can navigate conflict in a way that you couldn't before. You can kind of step into the seat of the witness and have a look at what's actually going on here. Track my nervous system. Oh, okay, I'm triggered, and now I'm going into an old part, and I'm acting like a 3-year-old, and this is why. So it's kind of like you can show up with compassion directed toward yourself.
Towards yourself.
And others.
Yeah. It seems like, for me, when I really started focusing on directing the compassion towards myself, my heart opened up more and I had more space for other people. Because I was holding space for my own stuff, I was more adequately able to hold space for other people's.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this work is once you've worked it out and you can look at yourself compassionately, you can look at others through the same lens.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you hold the same sort of standard.
Right.
Yeah. Well, are there any specific themes or intentions like behind your offering? Like, what is your long-term intention behind this work?
My intention is to reach as many people as possible,
Yeah.
to give them the tools and the resources so that they can free themselves of suffering and liberate themselves of unconscious patterns that have been driving them for millions of years and spread the word, essentially.
So how are you doing, like, what do you do outside the yoga festival then? So what are some of the ways that you're teaching right now?
Mm-hmm. So I teach yoga at Nelson School of Yoga once a week, and then I work in a one-to-one setting with clients in somatic therapy and compassionate inquiry. So what that looks like is it's somewhat movement, it's somewhat somatic, so body-based, and it's also talk therapy. So we unpack, what is driving my actions, but we do it all through the body. So I work one-on-one with people to try and reconnect to authenticity, reconnect to the body.
And you do that in Nelson?
I do, yeah. I do it on Baker Street, but I also work online. So I have a huge client base down in the States, and actually a lot of the people I work with are teens that have completely disconnected from their body, that have been in recovery, and I'm teaching them to get comfortable with being in the body again. And some of the breakthroughs I get from these kids is like, it's so profound.
And how has that changed you?
Oh, it just makes my heart explode. Yeah, I would love to work with more teens, actually.
So how do people find you? If if someone's listening to this podcast, how would they find you online?
Yeah, my name is my website, so Peta, P-E-T-A, Thompson.com. Also just on Instagram, Peta Thompson Wellness.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. Is there anything else that you would like to say that you feel is important?
Thanks for having me, for one. And I would just like to say that I'm really honored to be part of this community and offering my workshop here among so many of my peers, my brothers and sisters here in the Kootenays. It's such a profound way to share connection and authenticity.
It is. It's a pretty remarkable
beautiful
place.
Group of people, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, it was very nice to meet you, Peta.
It was lovely to meet you as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Winston.